tonight. Hopefully that's the way we'll go. The Lord always reserves the right to change it at any time. But in the book of Proverbs, now we'll try not to be long because we've got kiddie winkles in our congregations, and kids doesn't have a long concentration span as the rest of us. It's just the way children are. So we'll try to keep it down, and then when there's no kids tonight, then we can take the rest of it right away through. Proverbs 30 and verse 24. Just make sure we're on record, fellas. Proverbs 30 and verse 24. Look at this passage of Scripture. Have you got it? Have you found it? Proverbs 30 verse 24. The guys will put it up in 30 seconds. Well, I'll read it to you. Proverbs 30 verse 24. There be 4 things which are little upon the earth. Look at somebody say, I know one of them. Shorty, are you here? Okay. There are 4 things which are little upon the earth. Or in other words, that word little means insignificant, overlooked, set to one side, has of great no value in the eyes of a human being. But God said there's 4 things which are of little value on the earth. But listen to this, but they are exceeding wise. Exceeding wise. Everybody shout exceeding wise. And Solomon decided to put these wee rascals in for you so that you could learn from these, the wisdom that they are applying, the wise situation that they apply to your life. If we could take these 4 principles and put them to our life, then God could also, and human beings could also call us exceedingly wise. So there's 4 things which are little upon the earth, but they are exceeding wise. Number 1 is the ants. Everybody shout the ants. Now, we're going to deal with them this morning. We'll deal with the other ones tonight. The ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their meat in the summer. The conies, that's the wee rabbits. It's a half a rabbit. It's a cross between a rabbit and a mouse. It's got these long back legs, a weird-looking animal. But it says this, the conies, they are a feeble folk, yet they make their houses in the rocks. Verse 27 says, and there's the locusts. They have no king, yet they go forth all of them by bands. There's no translation says they go by groups. And then verse 28 says, and then the spider. Look at somebody say, I don't like them. The spider taketh holes with her hands and is in the king's palace. I want to share on those 4 little things, those 4 little creatures. I want to look at the wisdom that God said and Solomon said when he saw them. They're exceeding wise. If we can learn the principles that they operate on, then we will not go far. I was studying in this. I kept studying a bit. I'd put it off a bit. I'd study a bit more till I've come up with it. And I thought, man, that we need to know this stuff. Several years ago, Laura and I had an opportunity to go to Dar es Salaam, which is close by one of those safari parks. 6 hours. Well, in Africa, 6 hours is close. 6 hours through the dense terrain of Middle Africa till you get to a safari park. I really wanted to go, and in going I had prepared myself for it. I bought a long lens for my camera so that I could still sit in the Jeep and take a shot that's at least 1/4 mile away. Originally I thought I didn't have the money for that, so I was trying to talk Laura into getting outside of the Jeep, beat on the door, and then as she would attract them in and coming close, I could get the photographs. But she said, well, come up with the money somehow, let's get a telescopic lens. But I had prepared. I was doing the meetings, but on the back of my mind, I was thinking, come Wednesday, I'm going to see the safari. Have you ever been on safari? Anybody ever been here? You ever been to the zoo? Right, well, we were at the zoo just the other week again. And but when everybody goes to safari, there's what they call the Big Five. Have you ever heard of the Big Five? There's the Big Five that everybody wants to see. There's the elephant, there's the rhino, the African buffalo, there is, of course, the lion, and then there is the leopard. The leopard's harder to see because it's kind of elusive. It's either hiding up our trees or stealth away somewhere, and it's just by the grace of God that you ever get a look at one. But you can go to the zoo and you can see them. But when people go to Africa, when people go to these places, or you go to the zoo, everybody wants to see and take photographs of the elephant, the rhino, the buffalo, buffalo, the lion, and the leopard. They are, of course, along with the lion, the king of the jungles. There's nobody going to attack them. They are the only people that they're afraid of is the human beings with their rifles. Other than that, there's really not a lot of threat to them. And because of their speed, their weight, their agility, and just their fierceness and ferocity in the fight, they have no fear in them. They are the big five. The lion with its strength, top of the food chain, it eats everything else below it, and it's really not even afraid of man. If you go to the zoo, and we were in Belfast Zoo the other week, and you can get close to them now. Most of the animals is close enough, and it doesn't even bat an eyelid of you. The kids are showing it their lollipops, and we're screaming, and we're hitting fences, and it doesn't even bat an eyelid. It doesn't care because it's the king of the jungle. What can we possibly do to that thing? It's not easily intimidated. There is the elephant, and if the elephant goes for a walk, everything moves out of its road. But when the elephant goes on a rampage, I tell you, the world knows about it. The earth shakes, the dust rises, and everything gets out of there as fast as it possibly can. The leopard is probably one of the fastest creatures on the face of planet Earth, and so not only can it hunt, but it can also get away from anything that's coming after it in big time. Wouldn't you think that when God goes to talk about wisdom, wouldn't you think when God goes to talk about how to get things done in a unique plan, wouldn't you think that he would make reference to the lion or the big five? But he doesn't. He bypasses the elephant. He bypasses the buffalo. He bypasses the speed of the leopard. He even bypasses the great eagles in the sky. He bypasses it and comes down, 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 till he makes reference to the ant. Nobody goes to safari to see an ant. Nobody goes to Belfast Zoo or Dublin Zoo to see the ants. They're there, they're everywhere, but nobody takes time. Yet God said this. He said, Solomon, make sure you write this down. Watch them for a minute, and then you'll see they are exceedingly wise. And if you and I can follow the trend of those little ones, we will not go far wrong. I'm going to get excited about this. And wouldn't you think they're too little, they're too helpless, they're too defenseless, they're too insignificant, overlooked to be anything? But God says, no, these are the ones that you need to talk about. The ant, the coney, the locust, and the spider. They carry such exceeding wisdom. It says the ants are a people not strong, yet they prepare their meat in summer. So here we go. Here's the principles attached to the ant. Makes them exceeding wise. They prepare for winter. They prepare their meat even in the midst of summer. They're months ahead of themselves. When the grass is green, when the blossom's out, when the fruit's on the trees, on the ground, the harvest is ripe, everything is abundance, and these little rascals, they ignore where they are, they ignore what is going on because they're filled with vision. They are locked into something, and it's not where they are, and it's not where they've been. It's because they know there's a future. There's something more to chase after, and they get focused on their future. Even in a summer, in an abundance, when it's all dripping off the trees, everywhere you go, you're running into blessing, and still with all blessing up, they will participate in the blessing, but they're not focused, they're not stuck, they're not staying there and saying, no, there's more. Everybody shout, there's more. Never get stuck, even in a blessing. Never get stuck in a defeat. Never, never, never. Keep focused. Keep focused because there's more ahead. If the ant ever had an exceedingly wise statement to make to this generation, it's very simple. Be prepared. Everybody shout, be prepared. If you're a Boy Scout, then you've got a hold of that one. It is be prepared. It disregards what happens in its past. It doesn't matter about previous harvests. It doesn't matter if they were washed off the terrain and had to make it back. It doesn't make any odds. They have forgotten their past. They have let it go. They have made a closure on theirs yesterday. They're no longer rehearsing over again and over again who did what did when, where. They don't. They're not even discussing the good times they've had. They're not even thinking about the bad times they had. Their victories or defeats. They are simply focused on this one thing: winter. We got to get over there because it's going to be good when we get to that direction. They're focused entirely on their tomorrows. Everybody shout, I've got a great tomorrow. But I know people all over this nation, because I preach in this nation, and they're 30-year-old, but they're stuck at 30 because they can't get over what happened to them when they were 18. I know people in their 40s and 45 and 50s, and they're stuck in their 25s because something happened to them. Miserable as it was, horrendous as it was, it stole their life, it stuck, and 20 years later they're still rehearsing and thinking over, and their vision is no longer locked on a brilliant, fantastic tomorrow. They're locked in on a disastrous past, and they go forward always looking over their shoulders, and their life never comes to anything. I have looked at this in my own life. Anything that we have gained, anything in ministry, or anything that I have personally gained at any length, it is because somewhere in my past I have sat and dreamed the dream. I've thought it over. I have written my plan. I have written my vision. I have written it down and took it before God. And no matter how and what was going on, that you had to deal with all them things, I was fixed on a tomorrow. I was fixed because I got places to go, and I got people to see. I have not finished my race. I have not finished my course. There's a whole bunch more stuff still to be done. Is anybody thinking the same here this morning? But so don't get stuck. Even if you had a blessing, blessings are great, and enjoy the blessings and take time to thank God and eat everything you can on the way through. But let me tell you something, don't sit there. Don't sit. If you sit there, it'll run done sooner or later, and then you'll miss what's really ahead. It never stops till you get to heaven. God is always so much more. Look at three people and say, God is so much more for you. But I know people, and you've got to learn how to even ignore. Forget about your past. You've got to learn how to ignore your present. The present circumstances, the present trials, the present testings that you're going through. You got to understand this is not all there is. People, especially this generation, there's a young generation, and I'm coming to the point I can't half understand their logic or their reasoning. But I've seen this about this generation, this up-and-coming generation, that they live like there's no tomorrow. They live like there's no eternity. They live like there's no heaven and there's no hell. They live like, just live it up right now, because what does it matter 20 years ahead? Well, it matters, because one day you'll get into that 20 years ahead, and then you'll think, what have I done? What have I achieved? And then you're too old or too late. You've not put the markers in. You've not done the rehearsing you're supposed to do. And God's waking us up and saying, if you want it to happen in 5 years from now, you got to put your pegs in. You got to write your vision out, and you got to make your plans. Everybody shout, make your plans. But I see this generation, they want the pat on the back now. They don't want to go through all the stuff you and I went through. They don't want the tests and the trials. They want to get a helicopter and land at the top of the mountain, instead of where you and I had to walk barefooted on the tarmac till you get up the mountain, and somebody had to help you and sleep overnight in a tent before you got to the top. Nowadays they don't want. They want a lift, they want the escalator, or they want a helicopter ride to the top and get off and say, I made it. You didn't make it at all. Look at somebody, say, you didn't make it. No. No, there's trials and there's tribulations that we must go through. We got to press through. This is where we learn experiences. This is where you see the hand of God in action. It's not supposed to be a flowery bed of ease. It's not supposed to be easy. It's meant to be a journey that you and I are on, with its goods and with its bads. But this generation won't wait. They don't have the patience. They want the accolades. They want the pats on the back now, even though they've accomplished very little. It's those that learns to have patience. Look at somebody, say, I'm working on that. I'm working on that. It's those that learn patience. No, you don't get it all in one go. That you can't get it all overnight. It starts with a thought and an idea and a desire. It works its way up to the dream. It's got to come from the dream on the inside to writing it down on paper and become a project for the rest of your life. It's a plan that you have to go through. And we'll have to learn patience. Not patience where I preached the other week on frustration. It's not about patience and frustration. It's about this confidence on the inside that my time surely will come. And when my time comes, I will be prepared and I will be ready for it. Knowing this one thing, there's still more to come. I've not finished the course. This is not all there is. Everybody shout, this is not all there is. I say, if this is all there is, that's a very sad ending to our life. But it's not. Thank God it's not. So we have got to have a plan, and we've got to have a strategy. Even in our summer, and I'm praying for your summer. I'm praying summer's the blessing time. It's the fruitful time. It's when you can lie back a little bit. The winters are tough, but let me tell you something. This summer, it's more of a relaxing type of thing, unless you're a farmer, in which case you're bringing in the harvest. But still, there's all this blessing that goes on with it. But the little ants, in the midst of all the blessings, they haven't forgot something. Winter's still ahead. And we're going to make plans for tomorrow. We're going to make plans for our future. Joe Corry, you don't understand. This is Northern Ireland. Nothing ever changed. Have you ever said that? I remember going one time to America, and we were away for 3 or 4 weeks. And I came back in, and nothing had changed. Have you ever noticed nothing changes in Northern Ireland? Not a thing. The Belfast Telegraph still runs the same headlines. The posters are still the same. Nothing changes. Nothing changes in Northern Ireland. And I remember hearing a person saying, I was telling them about how to live the life, how to achieve things, and you got to write your plan and understand the vision. They said, well, what I tell you, so nothing ever changes. I said, yes, it does. Yes, it does. You changed. I looked them right in the eye and I said, you changed. You changed. But then they come back and said, well. And while they're stuttering, I just said to them directly, tell me, you changed because you used to be happy. Look at somebody say, that's right. You used to be happy. You used to be thin. You used to be full of life. You used to be content. You used to be optimistic. You used to be full of ideas. You used to be full of compassion. But you changed. And they say, but you don't understand, Joe Corry. Things happen. That's right, things happen. But you allowed the things that happened to you. You allowed the things that happened to you to move you from living towards your future, to either be living right in your present or to be stuck on your yesterdays. And you've allowed your past and your present to dictate your future. Everybody has failures. Everybody makes mistakes. You can't show me anybody that's never made a mistake somewhere, who doesn't have a skeleton in the cupboard, who wished that they could go back and rip that piece out of the calendar of time. Everybody has those places. But you can't get stuck there. And you cannot let that one failure dictate your future. You cannot let the things that happened to you back there still be shouting down the corridors of time and saying, it'll not work. Listen, this is a new day. Everybody shout, this is a new day. This is a new time. This is a new era. This is a new beginning. When you look at photographs of did you ever look at photographs of yourself 20 years ago and you're thinking, my goodness, did I look like that? Did you ever look at your early beginnings? Did you ever look at it? Do you know what the worst thing? You know how you know when you're getting old? When you go to the Ulster Museum. Have you ever been to the Ulster Museum lately? And you go in through the front, and the first object you see, you think, I used to play with that. And you go in and then you, whenever, because your kids know what you say, well, my granny had one of them. Your granny didn't have it, you had it, and you give it to your granny when you finish. And you walk up to the black and white televisions, and it brings back all these memories of watching the dot disappear at 10:30 at night. You remember that? 10:30 at night, and the white dot disappeared, and then we can all go to bed. When you looked at the telly lamp that you had to push, and do you know what I'm saying? And you looked at all them things in the museum. In the museum. Oh, the worst thing to do is take your own kids with you, because they'll turn around and say, do you remember that, Daddy? No, son, no, not in my time, not in my time. But you look at it, but people allow their past and even their present to dictate their future. That's a sad, sad day. If you allow what happened to you, and if you allow what's happening to you right now to blinker you and unfocus you, then you'll never get any better. You'll walk in circles for the next 40 years. The man and woman that will make the difference, no matter about your age, no matter about your education or where you live from, the man and woman that makes a difference is the one that continually looks out over the wall and saying, there must be more, and I've got to go there, and I won't rest until I see what's over the wall. Are you with me this morning? So you used to speak to the mountains. When the mountain of adversity came on your road, you were the first to stand up and say, get out of my way. But now you don't. Now you sit and you talk to your cronies and bring them round for tea. And you don't talk to the mountain anymore. All you do is talk about the mountain. And while you're talking about the mountain's never removed. So you're stuck there for the next 40 years until Jesus calls you home. But the man or the woman that will make a decision, this mountain will go. I don't care if I have to get under it, over the top of it, around it, or take an airplane. I'm getting over this. Look at somebody say, I'm getting over this. I'm not going to be stuck for the next 20 years talking about what he said, what he did, who is over there and where. I'm not going to do it anymore. I've got a future. I have got a future. The ants are exceedingly wise. In the midst of a blessing, they're still preparing for the next season of their life. Then the Bible, it tells you in the Old Testament about two lepers that were dying on their feet, pieces falling off them. They were separated from their families. Absolutely no hope in this wide world. Never is it ever going to get any better. And one turned to the other and made a statement that changed their life. And one said to the other, why sit here till we die? Are we going to sit? Are we going to play the same games? Are we going to sit on the same chair? Are we going to just go to Port Royce every 13th of July like we've all? Are we going to walk the cycle that we've always? Is that all we're going to do? Then this will be a very sad existence for you. When just over that wall, there's an adventure. There's novelty. There's new. There's fresh. And God's got dreams on the inside of you, but somewhere you've got to hear yourself saying, why should we sit here till we die? Let's get up and do something. Everybody shout, do something. Or like blind Bartimaeus who sat on the highway side begging. And he sat and they heard all the noise and they realized it was Jesus. And he started to shout. And they came and said, for goodness sake, keep quiet. You're making a fool of yourself. And on the inside of him, he said, well, you can keep quiet if you want, but I'm not going to sit here. If it's a possibility I'm getting out, then I'm getting out. I got one shot at this, maybe one shot in my lifetime. So if I take it and I fail, at least I can say I tried. At least I can say I tried. I'm going to do it. Everybody shout, I'm just going to do it. Or that woman with the issue of blood tried everything, spent all the money, been to all the top people of the day, and everybody tells her the same thing. It's over. Write your will out, kiss your goldfish goodbye. It's over. It's over. Don't even pack a bag. You don't even have long left. She could have went home and sat in the corner and say, what's life all about? Isn't life a misery? I hope somebody calls tonight, tell them what the doctor is saying, and we can talk about what the doctor and what the doctor and what the doctor, and we can talk about it. Talk all you want. One day she said, wait a minute. We're going to have another go. Everybody said, we'll have another go. Just give me a lick at that lollipop one more time. Just lend us a pound. Can you give us a tenner? I got to get a bus out of here. I got to see Cork at least one time before I die. I've got to get to Newcastle because there's a mountain. And I don't care if I'm 80. If somebody has to help me, I'm going to make it to the top of that mountain at least once in my lifetime. That's a boy. That's a boy. That's it. That's it. Get up and go on the inside of you. Oh, you went quiet. I thought I had you going there. I don't know. But these ants, they really believe. They really, really believe that this is, even though it's a blessing season, this is not all there is. They really believe there's another season approaching, and they believe they're going to be alive and well and able when they get in there. So they're not focused on this wee circle that they live in. They're focused on a brilliant and a bright tomorrow. So they get busy. Have you ever seen a photograph? You ever seen geographical channels where they show you the ants and stuff? Man, I'm glad we don't have ants like they have in Africa. But have you ever seen ants? Have you ever seen? We know what an ant's like. We don't see much activity in them. But the ones that you see in Africa, they're the size of mice near. Have you ever seen them when they walk along? They kind of and they don't get a leaf. They don't pick up a leaf that's just a wee break off something that one could stick it under his wing and head on out. Have you ever seen them? They get something that's 6 times the size of itself and they pull it up and it's like a seal. Have you ever seen it? And it's walloping all over the place. So 3 of them get round and help it, and so they're moving through the jungle. It looks like sailing ships going, and all it is an ant with a leaf that's 6 times bigger than itself. Never grab a dream that you can finish in a week. Never get a dream that you can hold on your own. Get something from God that will last you a lifetime. Get something on the inside that will affect not just you, even though you stumble a wee bit. Get something that will not affect you, but you'll have to have at least 6 other people with you to get the job done. Are you with me this morning? Never settle for it. You got to prepare for it. You got to get ready for it. There's another season coming. So immediately they think to themselves, it's inherent. I don't know if they talk or they communicate, but they all start to move. Ants never sit at peace. Not like the queen bee. She sits up in the hives and gives orders. Look at somebody say, I know who she is. She sits, the queen bee just sits up on the throne, on the hive, sits on the honey and wants everybody to call honey. And they want her to come and sit and bring their things to her so that she can have the honey and around with her. And she just delegates authority like, go! And them bumblebees are and they're dropping like flies just to satisfy the queen bee, but not the ant. God didn't say if you have the wisdom of a queen bee, you could make it. He never mentioned that. He said you need to be exceedingly wise like the ant, because the ant doesn't delegate. The ant gets right in there with his, I wonder how many feet an ant has. with his multiple limbs that's able to get it through the jungle. It doesn't sit back and say, well, wait till it comes. It immediately starts on the move and starts to get the job done. It gets involved. Let me tell you something. If you get a plan and you get a dream, just don't make it a dream on a bit of paper and put it in the top drawer somewhere and say that'll come to pass. Probably won't. You got to get your dream and pray over it. Sometimes you have to fast over it. You got to consistently speak over it. You got to turn around and point the scriptures out and say, you will come to pass. You are mine. But when you got a dream on the inside of you, when you got a plan and you got a future, it really won't matter what happens to you, because the enemy just sets obstruction after obstruction, and people with no purpose, people with no plans, and people with no future just sit down and say that's it. What they're doing is reacting to every circumstance and every problem because they've got no future. They're not looking to the future. They're living in the moment. And when you live in the moment, whatever the enemy throws in, big, small, toothless or bald, whatever he throws in there will stop you dead in your tracks because you're not looking out over the wall. I'm telling you right now, once you start looking, got a plan, got a purpose, got a goal in your life, when you're heading out to it, the enemy will throw it, but you will not react. You will not react to it. You will respond. You will take time and you will respond to it. With measured thoughts, you'll counteract it. You'll come against it with the Word of God, but you're still focused on that. You'll say, I'll deal with this and I'll deal with it, and I won't even take time with this because I'm going there. Your purpose will pull you together. You'll get there. See, God doesn't react to what the devil does and say, how did he get in there? Look what's happening to Joe today. Who let that happen? God doesn't react. God responds. He knows what the enemy's like. He knew man would fail. And before the enemy ever came into the book of Genesis, into the Garden of Eden, for to work his work and his deception against Eve, and then moved on Adam, before he ever did that, God already seen it. He didn't react to that. He responded. And when did he respond? Before it ever happens. He said, I'll make preparation for it, because them guys will get it wrong. I'll make preparation. And the Bible says there was a lamb that was slain before the foundations of the world. Before the book of Genesis ever was, God knew you would fail. God knew you would mess it up. He didn't react to the mess of the garden. He responded before it ever happened. He said, I'll make provision for it over here. And before the foundation of the world, the blood was shed, the sacrifice was given. And I want to tell you something, God knows ahead of time what's going to, anything and everything you do, there's nothing takes God by surprise. It may take you by surprise. Did you ever surprise yourself? I can't believe I said that. Have you ever done that? Can't believe I just done that. Sometimes it's too late. You did. But let me tell you something. Nothing ever takes God by surprise. Nothing. He knows. He knows who you are. He knows what you are. He's always prompting us. He wants to get into the Word so as we'll see these things and keep moving. He's always leading us. He doesn't want you stuck in your past. He doesn't even want you stuck in your present. Present is something you're walking through. We're on a journey. You haven't reached your destination. We're on a journey. He wants you focused on your future. He wants you to keep going. And He made a way. He made a way with the sacrificial, with the sacrifice at Calvary. He shed the blood so that you and I could be cleansed of every mistake, So we're not supposed to sit at the mistakes. Because we're cleansed, it's made like it's never was. We can now get up and go. We've been released out of the clutches of Satan himself. We've been forgiven. And now we're accepted. And now we're loved by the Master. And now He's got a destiny. He's got a purpose. He has a preparation for us out there. And He just says, get this in your system, son. This is not about who you were. This is not about where you are. This is about your future. And there's the next level. Everybody shout, I'm going to the next level. So never grab a plan that can be fixed in a week. Never have a plan that just gets you through for a month. That's living in the present. Get something beyond that. See yourself doing something you've never attempted in your life before. See yourself going places. See yourself out evangelizing, witnessing. See yourself on radio. See yourself doing the things that God wants you to do. You got to see yourself doing more than the circle. You break the circle out. Begin to think, wait a minute, there's more to this than there's 8 people that we know. Let's jump out the circle. Let's find something else. Let's do something for God. And in doing something, you may have to go back to school. You may have to take another test. You may have to do an exam. Who knows? You may even have to read a book. Look at somebody and say, will it actually come to that? Yes, it will. It will. You may have to sit down and read the literature. You may have to read somebody else that's already done it out there. Unless you're one of these unique individuals that God gives you something that no man has ever attempted before. In which case, that's a whole different ball game altogether. That case, you just get before the Master every day and say, show me the way, teach me and correct me as I go. But make plans for your future and make big plans for your future. So that you have something to accomplish, and so that you have something to go to God about and say, God, when's this happening? When's this? Live in the future. Live for your tomorrows. Please don't get satisfied where you are right now. If you do, the joy of the Lord will leave you. The enemy will just swamp you. He'll tie you in circles for years. If the enemy can't keep you in your past, he will for sure trying to keep you in your future. He doesn't want you to advance. Advancement doesn't start when somebody raps your door and says you've just won the lotto. Advancement doesn't when somebody raps the door and said, we're just making would you like to? That's not advancement. Advancement starts on the inside. When something wakens you on the inside and said, is there not something could be done for them? Is there an opportunity that I could go? Is there something you want me to do? And when you answer that call, then the purpose of life begins to unfold and begins to reveal. And God says, look at the wisdom of the ants. Even in a blessing, they're preparing for the next level. I'd say, we're just going to leave it there this morning. Kids are doing real well. I don't hear any of them stirring unless my hearing aids are shut down. I think this is fantastic. But we'll not push our luck. We will not push our luck. I could get into the second part of this and children start screaming, and then I'd go home saying, I'm sorry I started. So I'm going to leave it at that one. I'm going to leave it at number 1. We're going to do the next 3 tonight real quick. Hopefully we're going to give this to you tonight in one message. But God has a plan for you, and God has a future for you, but you'll never attempt it or succeed of it while you're hooked to yesterday or while you're just stuck in where you are right now. There's greater things ahead. There's people you have never met. There's people in there with you right now, and in 6 weeks' time, they might not even want to sit with you anymore. They'll have found something else. It's just life. It's just life. They meet something else, they get caught up in something else, and life takes them in a new direction. And you say, where did they go? Where did they go? Who knows? Look at many people you've met, and look at many people have disappeared. And they still love you, and you still love them. It's just life takes us. It takes different paths for different peoples. But why don't you start and make it happen? And start making decisions. Okay, let's look for new paths. Let's look for somebody to call. Let's look for somebody to vote. Let's jump out of this boat here for a while and we can see what's out there. It's living in your future. And the message from the ant is very simple. The wisdom that they had is they didn't live in the present. But they said, I got a future and I'm going there. I believe God has a future for you. Do you believe that?
Yes, amen.
I believe God has a dream. Now your dream's not my dream and mine's not yours. Everybody has something different. To get married, you find two people's got a dream close enough. Because if you got one to go to Africa and you got one to go to Taiwan, we're going to have problems in the marriage council somewhere after you're married. So you look for people who's basically got the same type of vision so two can come together and make things happen. Are you with me? Yes. And so you'll know people move house just for moving house. They never do that. You say, does this fit? Was this going to help my plans? Is this going to help me in my future? Is this going to fulfill the dream that God has called me to do? I got many things. Over the years, I've been teaching for years how to write your vision down, and it's stirring in my spirit again. Laura and I rewrite ours consistently because there's always something getting fulfilled on it. Now, if you write about 6 things down for your future, I tell you, a few months goes by, sometimes years go by, and that's finished. You just wipe it off. But don't say, well, I'm down to 5. No, fill that one in with something new. There's always another thing to say, another thing to do. But I've found if I wrote it down and made it a vision and prayed over it and talked to the Lord about it and made it a daily going back to Him in my life, it started to come to pass. It put some direction in my life. It put some hedges on the road that I was going. And it let me know at times I didn't have to compare myself with somebody down the road. I could just compare myself with a vision and say, how are we getting on, Joe? Are we still chasing after this? Are we any closer now than where we were a year ago? And I found that I didn't have to compare myself with the man or the ministry down the road. I could just compare myself with the dream, and that kept me going another bit further. Then I wouldn't have to get jealous over somebody else's success. I was just monitoring myself as I was going along, and I found I could keep the smile on the face. Are you with me this morning? Let's stand to our feet. Father, I think these people they're here. They could be in any other church in the land. There's a multitude of churches here. And they could be happy. They could go in and be blessed and hear some eloquent speech from somebody. But God, I really think that you brought these people here because they don't really want to hear the eloquent speeches, but they do want to hear things on destiny, and they want something on the inside that revives them and lifts them and gives them a bright future and a better tomorrow. And I really believe that these people are here because you've drawn them in, and people listening to CD and by YouTube. I really believe that you have locked these people in because you've got a purpose and you have a drive and you've got something awesome for them to do in this generation. Maybe they're soul winners extraordinaire, but they've never won anybody to Jesus. Maybe they're business people, but business is going bad. Maybe they've failed in marriage and failed in business and failed in relationship. And if the enemy could get them stuck at that, they would die. They would be like zombies, alive for the next 50 years, but never have lived the life. But oh God, you're beginning to teach us, unhook from the past. Get our eyes off the present and hook up to the future. Oh God, this morning, I'm really believing now that these people, that somehow in the next weeks or months that you'll talk to them and you'll put a new drive on the inside and places to go, people to see, lives to touch, and they'll see they're not of little value, but their life is of major significance. And they're born to bless, and they're born to help, and they're born to loose people from their insanity. So we're going to believe. Take somebody's hand right now, because the Bible says that the believers can lay hands on the sick and lay hands on each other and all types of stuff. And somebody's going to have to grab Amanda because she's out on her own there in the paddock on her own. That's it. So we are believing right now, Father, we are holding the hands of somebody, and we are believing for the person next to us that their dream will be bigger than they're ever able to handle. So maybe we could be a part of what they're doing. We're believing for their success. We are speaking a blessing over the person we're holding their hands with. We will believe they're blessed in the city and they're blessed in the field. That we will hear of great victories in their life and we'll sit and smile and say, wow, I spoke that over their lives. We believe right now from the inside of us will come such an encouragement to the other person that they will begin to get healed and delivered and set free, and it will jerk them right out of their past, and it will begin to put a momentum in them for their future, and they'll move forward with great expectation. I'm going to believe this morning that that person on the side of them, whichever side they're on, will receive health and healing and breakthroughs, extraordinarily breakthroughs this morning, and we are believing it now in Jesus' name. Now look, go and hug 3 people's neck and say, I'm believing now for your breakthrough. That's it. Go hug 17 people. I'll be back tonight. I'm going to be here tonight. If you're not on holidays, if you're not at the zoo, if you're not in Africa, I'll be back tonight at 6:30, and we're going to preach the rest of this message to you. God bless you.
Cross the empty grave, life eternal.